First of all, I'll share something with you that my brother gave to me many, many years ago. It's a business advice, but it's been very, very helpful to me. Here's what he said. He said, John, control your destiny by controlling your dollars. Now, you might look at that and say, wow, that could be a kind of like maybe a greedy grab in the business world, but it really isn't. Let me go underneath that advice that my brother gave to me. Control your destiny by controlling your dollars. He then sat down and said, really, there are only two benefits of money. One is it gives you options. It sure does. That's a huge benefit. If you have some financial resources, you can choose how you travel. You can choose where you travel. You just get all kind of options in life. Okay, so we all know that. And the second benefit of dollars is how you can help other people. By living a generous life and by living a significant life of wanting to make a difference in people's lives, money really allows you to do that. And I put that as the foundation as we talk about the different, what I'm going to call in a moment, streams of income. Why do we have this? Why do we want this? Well, I hope that it does give you options, but I also hope that you have a generous heart and generous spirit, and you realize that as I'm a person of faith, God only gives to you what he knows will flow through you. So here's what Larry taught me. He said, John, what you want to do is you want to have at least 3 streams of income. And so he sat me down. Now, you have to understand, he's always been a very successful business person. I started off of a pastor. I had literally a couple decades in my life, I had nothing. I mean, I didn't go into the ministry to make money. That wasn't the purpose. I went into the ministry to help people and add value to them. So he was really having to kind of teach me the kind of 101 stuff. And he said, you want to have 3 streams of income. And he said, 2 of them can be active, but he said one needs to be passive. So, what do you mean by passive income, Larry? Well, that means that you don't have to work for the dollars, but the dollars work for you. And so he said, you need to make sure that you have at least one passive stream of income so that you don't have to always put in time for it, but you're still going to reap some benefit from it. Now let's go back to those streams of income. I was speaking for Microsoft, and I was speaking to their leaders, not a lot of their people, about, maybe 70, 75 of them. Basically, they were the presidents of each country of Microsoft around the world. And I spent a whole day doing leadership with them. We did the 5 levels of leadership, which we do for a lot of organizations and a lot of companies. And so in the question and answer time, one of the Microsoft executives said, John, could you talk to us about your financial goals in life? And I smiled and I said, well, I can, but to be honest with you, I don't think you would be interested in my financial goals. Well, the moment I told them they wouldn't be interested, guess what? They became even more interested. And I wasn't trying to play a game with them. My financial journey and purpose and goals are different than probably yours. And it's okay, but they're mine. And they give me great purpose. And so that day at Microsoft, they kind of kept pressing me. Finally, I said, well, I'll be glad to give them to you, but I really only have one simple goal, and that is that every year I want to increase my standard of giving. Now, immediately they looked at me because, they were thinking, how do you increase the standard of your living? And that advice my brother gave me increases your standard of living. But here's what I don't want you to miss. There's only one reason I want to increase my standard of living. I already have all I need. The only reason for me to increase my standard of living is so that I can increase my standard of giving. You cannot give what you do not have. And so that advice from my brother Larry, wow, life-changing advice for me. And often, in fact, just the other day we were talking and I just thanked him one more time. He has helped me immeasurably in the business world. Now, the advice I want to give you today on this lesson, the second one is okay, when I started writing books, I wasn't good writing books. I really wasn't. I only wrote books not because I wanted to write books. I wrote books because I wanted to increase my influence beyond my personal touch. That was my only, and still is basically my only desire to write books. I want to reach more people. I want to help people like you. And so I had a mentor named James, and he was a terrific writer himself and had sold a lot of books, and he was very successful. And he took me under his wings, and so I'll never forget. About, I think it was either my fifth or sixth book, came off the press. I got the first one, and I flew out to Colorado where he lived, and I had dinner with he and his wife, the three of us. And I showed him my new book, and I signed it. I said, it's the first one on the press. I want to thank you for helping me. I want you to have it. And I'll never forget, he looked at the book with a kind of a approving smile, and just like a mentor saying, kind of basically, John, I'm proud of you. And then what he said changed my life. He asked me, he said, John, is this your best book? And I said, yeah, it's my best book. And it was. It was really only my fifth book, I think. And so you got to understand, you got to put quotation marks around best. But it was my best effort, that was for sure. And when he asked me if it was my best book, and I said yes, I'll never forget, he looked at me and he smiled and he said, good. Because remember, John, you're only as good as your last book. Those words changed my life. That day, he helped me understand readers' expectations. Now, this could be also leaders' expectations. This could be speakers' expectations. Here's what he helped me understand that day. He helped me understand that when a person reads a book of yours, they give you certain level. I don't know whether maybe it's out of 100, maybe it's an 85. Okay, you're kind of an 85. Okay, it's worth maybe buying the next book. And basically, when he asked me if it was my best book, what he was saying is never live off of a previous work of yours thinking that they'll forgive you for a less work today. In other words, when you write your sixth book, John, don't say, well, I've already got 5 and I already got a following, and so they'll basically read anything I write, and so you just kind of start lowering your standards and the standards and the expectations of people, because he said, John, you want them to look at your book. He said, you want to be so good that when they see your name, they buy the book. And then, by the way, they may look at the title. That teaching was huge. That day, he taught me about expectations, because we deal with expectations in 3 different dimensions. The expectations that we have for ourselves, the expectations that we have for others, and the expectations that others have for us. That day, he said, people have expectation of you, John, when you write a book. You've set a certain standard. Never disappoint them. Never surprise them. Never give them less than what they would expect from you. Always keep moving that expectations. And the expectations, what my mentor James taught me that day is the expectations that we have of ourselves should be higher than the expectations that others have of us. And I have listened to that advice, and I've taken that advice, and I tried to live that advice all of my life. Why? It's very simple. So let me read to you what I wrote in my notes just to make sure that you get this. Set your standards high and keep them high. If you're interested in success, it's easy to set your standards in terms of other people's accomplishments, and then let other people measure you by those standards. But the standards you set for yourself are always more important. They should be higher than the standards anyone else would set for you, because in the end, you have to live with yourself and judge yourself and feel good about yourself. And the best way to do that is to live up to your highest potential. So set your standards high and keep them high, even if you think no one else is looking. Somebody out there will always notice, even if it's just you. Abraham Lincoln said when he finished his presidency, he said, I want to be able to live with myself. And my mentor that day helped me to understand you can never rest on success. You can only build on success. The day that I rest, the day I expect yesterday to carry me through today, is the day I've stopped adding value to others and I've just started watching out for myself.